at school and outside. He manipulated me into staying with him no matter how much I got hurt, and I could only escape by cutting him off completely for a few months. But looking back, those 6 months with him were the most scarring and disgusting months of my life. Obviously, there's a lot more to it, but it would be too much to write and submit.
I was in one of the state boarding schools where we were provided a place to sleep, but went to different schools in KL. This happened when I was in Form 2. I was groped by a man who was operating the hostel canteen, not the mess hall, during night study classes when I sneaked out from the class to buy some snacks. This happened throughout the year. He even went on to lock the canteen door to get me naked and hold my penis. This also did not happen just during night, but also during mornings. After the thing happened, he will bribe me some money. I went on to be transferred to another hostel in Form 3. I guess what Guy said about male students being raped is true. We just don't report it. Not because we rasa sedap, but because we are truly embarrassed on what has happened, plus we're confused about feeling during the rape.
Case 1. I was 14 years old at that time. I was regularly in the library performing my duty as a librarian. Boys would come in and try to peek under my baju kurung dress. Unbelievable. Already wear very long pun can kena like that. Case 2. During my last year in Sekolah Menengah, a boy groped my boob at the staircase and then ran off as though it was okay as a joke. It was not okay. Case 3. My tuition teacher called me one night to ask me about my homework. Halfway through, he asked me to try to moan and play with my private part. I was only 13 years old. Case 4, my science teacher called me a pelacho in front of everyone in the classroom. I didn't say anything because I was only 12 years old. I barely knew anything. Case 5 happened at home. My stepfather was an evil man.
I attended an all-girls school and someone didn't throw her pad in the designated place and it was found and reported by someone. Because of that incident, the entire Form 2 was on hold to get checked to find out who did it since the pad was found in the Form 2 toilet. I remember that the prefect asked us if we are on our period. I was on my period, but towards the end. The prefect told us not to move and she touched us down there to feel if there is anything there. The whole class was uncomfortable the whole time. The prefect's face was also uncomfortable, which kind of indicate that the teachers might have told her to do it in that way. The whole thing took place 2 days before the March holiday and I slowly forgot about it throughout MCO.
This didn't happen to me. It happened to my guy classmates in Form 1 and 2 and other male students that were taught by the male teacher. He was very friendly and personal to the guy students, and at first we all thought the teacher was being harmless when he touched the boys' shoulders, but then he would move to touch their chest area and pinch their nipples in front of the class. We didn't think much about it because he did it to every boy, but now that I think about it, it was super weird and inappropriate. I witnessed this 7 years ago, but 2 years after graduating from high school, I heard that he got complaints from parents, but were dismissed by the school. He currently is teaching in another high school now, but I'm pretty sure he still does this kind of thing. My guy friends are still traumatized by what he did.
2 weeks before SPM, I was assaulted by a guy with a kitchen knife. I would say it was an attempted rape because he did attack me from the back and tried to take off my clothes at the time. This boy had been my classmate from Form 1 until Form 3. According to my neighbor, he was stalking me at my condo for a few weeks prior to the incident. It meant that it was all planned. I came back from school one day and this guy wearing a medical mask was waiting for me at the corridor between the lift and my house door. When he attacked me, I fought back, and when I could free my mouth from his hand, I screamed as loud as I can, saying, "Tolong, tolong, tingkat 8, tingkat 8." one hand struggling to keep me in place and another hand holding a kitchen knife. He ran away, but the guards managed to stop him at the guardhouse and called me to identify the suspect. True enough, I was staring back at the face of my classmate. According to sources, he did it because it was a bet or a truth or dare between him and his other male friends in school. He was already a sex addict at that time, and this bet only made it worse. During this bet, they were specifically talking about my breast and how big it was. He was brought to the police station, not the main police station, not the main station itself, but to another building in that compound. When my mother and I arrived there, he wasn't handcuffed, sitting comfortably on the sofa, and there was only one policeman in the room. We waited for hours for the dad to arrive to the station. The police met his father and then interrogated me, with the suspect sitting on a couch 1 meter away from me without a handcuff. By interrogation, I meant the police was trying to frame me into telling them that boy didn't do much except push me and implying that he didn't do anything with the knife in the hand. And then the boy was free to go back home. When my mother tried to argue with the police, he screamed back at my mom and said that case is closed. Conveniently, there wasn't anyone else around except for the suspect and his father. My guess was that the dad bribed the police. So corrupted. The next day I went to school and that boy was there. The principal knew very well of the matter, but she let the boy to go back to school again. When my mother questioned and fought for my rights, she just dismissed us and said that she talked to the police and the police said it was nothing. Mind you, this principal is a woman and she didn't have a single pity towards her traumatized female student. On top of that, I was being shamed by other female students and they spread rumors that I was already raped when none of it was true. The male students, on the other hand, blamed me for not wearing a tudung to cover my breasts and for having big boobs that are too appealing. No one supported me at that time except for my mom and my close friends. Sick kid, sick police, sick female principals, sick female students, sick male students. All of this happened 2 weeks before SPM, and this school was a sekolah cluster kecemerlangan in KL. Top 10 co-ed school in KL, but top 10 corrupted mindset as well. You're on mute, Ustazah.
Semasa saya berusia sekitar 16-17, kami membincangkan soal poligami dalam subjek agama dan ustaz saya memberitahu bahawa sekiranya dia mahu mencari isteri kedua, calon isterinya akan berusia lebih kurang sebaya dengan kami. Tergamak dia menceritakan tentang hal itu lalu tersenyum-senyum kepada para pelajar perempuan. Saya tidak rasa dia berfikir panjang tentang kenyataan itu, namun semua pelajar perempuan di dalam kelas itu berasa tidak selesa dengan apa-apa maksud di sebalik pernyataan itu.
It was during our agama period. There was this ustad came into our class. We usually have a female teacher. Maybe she was absent on that day and the male teacher substituted. So we were a bit shocked at first. Me being a naive girl at 15, though nothing of it despite hearing rumors about a slight misconduct from this ustad from other classes. At one point during the class, he said that on our right palm has the kalimah Allah written. As a Christian, I questioned him. I said, tak faham. He then, without consent, took hold of my right hand and traced slowly on my palm, what he claimed as kalimah Allah. My classmates were shocked, and I was at the bridge of crying. He was visualizing it. I felt violated. I felt disgusted. I then kept quiet throughout the session, and so did my other classmates. He sensed that and was trying to brush off it with a joke, but no one was buying it. The very next agama class, our ustazah finally returned and my classmate told her what he had done to me. Bless her soul. She called me up and asked me to explain what had happened. She was like a mother to me. She always said that I'm such a curious spirit and never gets annoyed with me asking questions. So then I told her about the whole thing and how I felt about it. The next thing I know,
that Ustad was kicked out from the school, and rumor has it that all the rumors were true, and what had happened to me was the last straw. My Ustazah defended me for me. My safety and that I think led to other victims speaking out. Teachers were our protectors back then, and it's sad to see how much that's gone.
I am an outgoing person, and I used to join many events at school. Hence, I had lots of acquaintances from another school. When I was 14, a 16-year-old senior from my high school asked me to be his girlfriend, and I rejected him. The next thing I know, my name and phone number was painted on an underground tunnel wall in my town, and it said, "Satu cucuk, ringgit satu." It was a way of saying that I did sex service. The tunnel is under a main road and commonly used for students to cross the main road. Then, male students began catcalling me at school, and some even joked by asking me to give them discounts. This did not only happen in my school, but also when I went for competition at other schools in the area. People knew me, so the rumors spread like a wildfire. I tried to keep a straight face every day, and sometimes yell back at the boys who catcalled me. But deep down, I was scared because I usually go home alone. So after a while, I laughed it off when they jokingly asked if I did such service.
This is traumatizing to open up, but gathering all the courage, yes, I'm ready now. When I was in school Rendah, I don't know how to describe myself back then, but it was that quiet girl who barely talked about, but still caught people's attention. There was a time when I was literally 8 years old. I didn't know anything about these things. In class, subject Bahasa Melayu, I was doing my work at my place, and suddenly some of my classmates gathered around the teacher's table. I didn't know what's happening, thinking maybe they were there to ask the teacher to mark their books. Later, one of my friends came at me and said, "Mia, not my real name, awak okay tak?" And I said, "Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't I?" Because I didn't know anything yet. I asked her what was going on just now, and she said the teacher caught Adam a letter passing to his friends. Want to know what was written in that letter? Aku nak rogol Mia. Yes. That time, sumpah demi Allah, I know nothing. I still ingat sampai sekarang how I asked my friend, "Rogol tu apa?" I never talked to him sepanjang I sekelas dengan dia. Neither did I wear anything that made him thought of me that way. He then moved to a new school, and only now I figured out why. I let it slide tau, and I have totally forgotten about that until one day his Instagram account was suggested in one's profile. I stalked him, and all the bad memories appeared in my mind. I swear to God, I was panicking. Guess what? He was a ketua pelajar back then when he was 12. Wow, how ironic is that? I grew up in fear of a freaking letter, and him out there became a ketua pelajar. To sum up, yeah, I received a rape threat written in a letter and was found by a teacher. It is still fresh in my mind. I am traumatized terribly. I was 8. I was a kid. I was in school. I was wearing a goddamn school uniform.
Kejadian ini terjadi semasa saya di sekolah rendah. Memang tak selalu dengar kawan cerita tentang seorang ustaz ini yang selalu pegang anggota badan pelajar perempuan. Tak sangka benda ni jadi dekat diri sendiri. Jadi lepas habis exam UPSR, tiada kelas tetapi kami masih kena datang ke sekolah. Saya seorang pengawas sekolah dan sewaktu saya berjalan dengan kawan saya, kami dipanggil oleh ustaz tersebut. Sebab ustaz itu nak bagi arahan kepada kami untuk disampaikan kepada pelajar lain. Saya dah berdiri agak jauh dari ustaz itu. Tapi tangan ustaz tu sempat lagi merangkul pinggang saya. saya berasa sangat tak selesa dan kawan saya sewaktu itu juga perasan muka saya berubah. Selepas ustaz itu pergi, saya dengan tidak puas hati telah pergi ke bilik guru darjah 6 dan menceritakan kejadian tersebut ke cikgu saya lain. Nak tahu apa mereka? Mereka katakan kepada saya yang ustaz itu anggap semua pelajar macam anak dia dan saya patut bersangka baik kepada ustaz tersebut.
Radin, are you there?
Semasa saya berada di zaman sekolah menengah SMK biasa, seorang guru kemahiran hidup perwatakan alim sering mencabul, meramas dan menyentuh para pelajar yang tidak cukup maskulin menurut standardnya dan kemudian mencubit kami seraya berkata geramnya. Kemudian, di sebuah sekolah berasrama penuh, beberapa pelajar lelaki yang enggan mandi bogel akan dipaksa dan dijadikan bahan jenaka oleh yang lain. Ada juga yang membuli, menghentam mereka yang tidak cenderung ke arah unsur seksual dan menghukum dengan cara mencabul, membelai dan lain-lain. Tidak menonton bahan lucah atau bersekongkol dengan tindakan-tindakan yang tidak sepatutnya juga akan mendatangkan akibat yang sama. Disebabkan itu, saya selalu perlu melarikan diri dari orang secara umum dan selalu menyendiri. Ketika jalani pemeriksaan kesihatan, ada seorang doktor yang sering berkelakuan sumbang. Sekiranya nasib tidak menyebelahi kami terpaksa membogilkan diri dan dia akan memeriksa kami dengan membelai kemaluan kami dan cuba melakukan fingering. Dia melakukan perbuatan ini baik dengan pelajar lelaki maupun pelajar perempuan. Dan ya, saya antara mangsa yang cuba melawan dia. Saya masih trauma sehingga hari ini. Saya mengalami kemurungan teruk, kerisauan melampau dan PTSD. Kesemuanya disahkan pada 2016. Saya berdepan dengan keinginan membunuh diri yang cukup banyak dan selalu menyalahkan diri sendiri. Bergelut dengan imej diri, pendirian tentang seksualiti dan mimpi-mimpi ngeri. Kerana lelaki sering dipelekehkan apabila mereka menjadi mangsa. Ramai rakan-rakan saya yang menjadi mangsa kini menjadi gay dan trans. Saya sahaja yang tidak menemui takdir seperti itu.
Back when I was 14 years old, I pernah dikurung dalam bilik store di Dewan Sekolah bersama seorang pelajar lelaki. His friends jaga pintu supaya I tak dapat keluar. That boy want to kiss me. Usap kepala, letak kepala di bahu, ask me to take off my hijab. Cause he wanted to see my hair and neck. Thankfully, he did not touch me in the sensitive area. The reason why he did that to me is because I tak nak terima dia sebagai boyfriend. I tak berani nak speak out about what happened. Sebab that boy pelajar kesayangan, top student in school, and I was nobody. I have PTSD, and this matter is one of the reasons I have to take pills till now.
Well, boys and some girls from my school take sexual harassment as a joke. I complained to the school, but they took no action towards them. The reasons I complained is because I realized that it was making me very uncomfortable and not making me want to go to school. But then when I told the teachers until now, there is no action taken towards any of them. They still do talk about sex in class and it gets very uncomfortable, but the teachers that know still won't take any actions towards them, which really sucks because I feel very uncomfortable and not wanting to go to school.
When I was 11 or 12, I had this one teacher about mid-20s who would constantly flirt with me, apparently as a joke, telling me how pretty I was, how he'd want to marry me one day. Everyone in class would make fun of me for it too, and continue the jokes with the teacher despite how uncomfortable I felt. I showed it too by avoiding the teacher a lot. When I was 14, a teacher had been staring at and taken a picture of my boobs. I was in my baju kurung uniform with a singlet inside too. I didn't even realize that happened until my friends around me told me about it, which I was grateful for. But ever since then, I'd been extremely self-conscious about that part of myself. This teacher was also known for having a porn stash on his computer in the computer lab, as he was the IT teacher. It's just disgusting how men think doing stuff like this is okay. I especially hate how it happened at school, a place I'm supposed to feel safe at.
My ustaz used to make rape and sexual jokes during my class. One day he called me to his room just because he wanted to tell me that I have a really nice body. He often addressed women as kilang anak, and no matter how we said that we are uncomfortable, he still said that it just jokes between teacher and students. He once sent me a pornography picture and deleted it right away without knowing I already caught him. Attending religious school is the most traumatic event for me.
I was 2014 at that time. I datang ke bilik store buku sebab nak kembalikan buku teks sekolah tiap kali hujung tahun. Ada cikgu lelaki jaga situ. Saya punya buku terlebih satu, and guess what? Cikgu tu ingat saya mencuri buku kawan saya. Padahal saya jumpa buku ekstra tu kat sekitar sekolah dan berniat untuk pulangkan balik. Malah ditengking cikgu tu. Dia cakap, kau tak payah kencing aku. Kau kencing aku jolok kau. Sambil jegilkan mata. I was terdiam at that time and speechless sebab kena tengking dengan bahasa macam tu. Can you imagine? I was so innocent, 14 years old kid. Sejak hari tu daripada tingkatan 2 sampai tingkatan 5 dan habis sekolah, saya tak berani langsung tengok atau jeling dia masa kat sekolah. It is very terrible.
I was 15 and a new student in that school. There was a time where I was walking down the stairs. Then a guy walked behind me and called me by making this kissing sound. But I ignored him. He walked beside me and grabbed my breast from behind and he said I would lick them.
This didn't happen to me, but to one of my friends. This happened a few years ago. After school hours, the stairs are usually crowded and filled with students rushing to go home. And there was this one time, a kid the same age as us tried to use his phone to take a picture of the inside of my friend's skirt. After that incident, whenever we go up the stairs, we would always use our hands to cover the back side of our skirt and check who is behind us.
Sepanjang tingkatan 1 dan 2, ada seorang cikgu silat lelaki yang suka pegang telur orang. Aku lelaki antaranya. Ada satu masa kami naik kereta bersama-sama. Ada 3 orang termasuk cikgu. Awalnya aku duduk di belakang dan cikgu menyuruh aku ke tempat dengan kawan duduk depan. Kawan ni berpindah ke tempat duduk belakang dengan muka macam aduh habislah kau. Atau aduh hati-hati tu. Tapi aku tak faham. Dan dalam perjalanan ke rumahnya, cikgu pegang telur aku dan picit sekuat hati. Aku melalak pun dia masih picit. Tersenyum dan kemudian barulah lepaskan. Masa tu aku tak tahu apa-apa. Masa tu aku rasa semuanya adalah hal yang biasa. Tapi semakin membesar, aku sedar yang banyak ketakutan yang aku hadapi hari ini disebabkan sepanjang 2 tahun tu aku tak langsung berani berbuat apa-apa. Aku tahu ianya bukanlah kejadian yang berlaku di sekolah. Tetapi setiap hari, lelaki ini akan masuk ke dalam sekolah, mengajar silat. Dan sekiranya sempat, entah berapa telur orang lain lagi yang akan dipegangnya. Aku tahu, ianya bukannya kejadian yang berlaku di sekolah. Kerana ianya kejadian aku. Kejadian orang lain yang tak ada siapa yang tahu.
Pada waktu itu, saya merupakan seorang pengawas berusia 14 tahun di sebuah sekolah campur. Saya cuma lalu di hadapan tandas pelajar lelaki selepas selesai tugasan waktu rehat, di mana tiba-tiba ada rakan setingkat, berlainan kelas, yang baru saja keluar dari tandas tersebut, menghampiri saya dan berkata, "Weh, jom masuk tandas. Kalau dengan kau ni, kejap je 5 minit dah pancut." Saya benar-benar tidak faham akan apa yang cuba disampaikan dia dan saya sangka ia hanya cuba mengusik saya. Namun saya memberitahu ibu saya yang merupakan seorang guru di sekolah tersebut. Ibu saya terperanjat akan hal itu. Namun beliau tidak memaklumkan kepada saya mengapa. Keesokan harinya, beliau memberitahu saya bahawa pelajar tersebut telah dipanggil oleh PKHM. Dan saya mengambil masa yang agak lama untuk akhirnya memahami apa maksud pancut yang sebenar. Saya sangat-sangat trauma dan cuba menjauhkan diri dari dia. Tapi apabila kami berselisih, dia akan mewujudkan mimik senyum sinis di wajahnya. Saya selalu memikirkan di mana salah saya. Saya rasa ini semua berpunca dari saya. Adakah cara saya berjalan? Adakah pakaian saya tembus cahaya? Keraguan dan rasa bersalah ini tidak putus-putus, sedangkan ianya bukan salah saya langsung. Mujur ibu saya seorang guru di situ dan pantas mengambil tindakan. Saya tidak mampu membayangkan maupun menyelami jiwa sesiapa yang terpaksa mengharungi pengalaman sebegini tanpa sistem sokongan yang baik, bahkan dipersalahkan pula kerana terlalu sensitif.
Sexual harassment isn't a one-time thing in school. I witnessed my friends getting called gila sex, boek, and many others until they cried. I was given a nickname for my large bottom. Some of the guys would lick their lips and laugh when we walk past them. I can't even climb a flight of stairs without worrying the boy behind me will look at my behind. The sex jokes in surau by our seniors and ustas? There's plenty more that I can tell because I want to stay anonymous. Nobody said anything because we were taught that it's normal. Lelaki memang macam tu. That it was just a joke. But jokes are not supposed to scare people. Jokes should not force a girl to wear clothes 3 times bigger than her size just to stop being teased. Jalan bongkok to hide the shape of our breast, starve ourselves so that our body shape will be different, make us traumatized with men. Your jokes were damaging, and it all started in school.
Happened to me when I was in Form 2. During Pendidikan Just Money period, we all required to change from uniform to PJ attire. This male teacher happened to be my BM teacher at the time, was waiting in front changing room and gave me a weird look when I was out from the room. Then he do kiss gesture and show middle finger to me. I was really shocked and scared. He just laughed at me and I ran towards my friends group to join them. I didn't tell anyone because scared that they won't believe me. After that day, I always feel uncomfortable every time during his period. Was super traumatic experience for me.
This is not going to be a long story, but it was very traumatizing to me and my friends. When I was in primary 6 in 2012, we had penilaian perkara asas fardu ain, AFA, setiap petang for kelas agama. There's this one specific time ustazah tak dapat datang, so ganti to a substitute teacher who is an ustaz. We had to read the Iqra, subject on learning Arabic letters and pronunciation since Al-Quran is in Arabic. While I was waiting for my turn, Ustaz tiba-tiba panggil us dekat dia and guess what? He panggil us just to show us pornography videos. He was also molesting 2 of my friends' vagina while my friends tengah baca Iqra. My friends did not know that it was wrong because they tak pernah didedah dengan these kind of things. They were kaku sebab tak tahu apa Ustaz tengah buat. While me sitting there rasa nak nangis takut I kena. I know that it was wrong but I tak berani nak sound. What I did was I ran to the toilet and cried sampai habis kelas at 4 p.m. I didn't know my rights. I was 12 years old. I tak tahu kalau I berbunyi what will happen to me. Till now, I dan kawan-kawan I trauma, pedophile ustaz, kelas agama kot.
I went to his house to teach him BM since he said he's not good in BM. We decided to study at the garden for an hour. Then he said, "Panas lah, let's go somewhere yang tak panas." I agree and I thought the place has an aircon. But suddenly it is so dark. I'm in a room beside his house. I did not enter his house, but the room was beside his house. And right after we entered the room, he said to me, "Give me what you have." and I swear to God, I don't know what to do. I know I was so stupid for letting him touch my private parts. On that time, he also pushed me to the wall and kissed me lips to lips. I told him to stop and tried to push him away, but he refused to stop doing it. He even asked me to lower down my voice because he was scared his parents know what he is doing to me. He slowly took off my shirt and touched my private part. He even have that audacity to tell me after I finish my running event, come back here and let's have sex together. And I just can't forget about that. I cried a lot, but I can't turn back time. I had a mental breakdown and my life is so miserable because my parents did not trust me and they said it is my fault that this thing happened. I wanted to commit suicide once, but luckily my friends were there to help me get through this.
Okay, terima kasih kepada semua pembaca ataupun readers kita pada malam ini. Saya rasa semua komen-komen yang telah kita kumpul ini sangat membimbangkan kita lah, dan ini menunjukkan realiti yang berlaku dalam masyarakat kita dan ia berlaku di sekolah yang menjadi tempat sepatutnya menjadi tempat selamat kepada anak bangsa kita lah, anak-anak kita dan juga generasi seterusnya. Dan ini juga menjadi data kepada kita semua bahawa this is real dan kita perlu mengambil action-action yang sepatutnya lah dalam menangani isu ini. Dan saya ingat ini juga bukan hanya berlaku kepada wanita tapi juga kepada lelaki. Semua terlibat dalam perkara ini. So saya ingat seterusnya kita move kepada sesi reflection. Kita akan panggil beberapa daripada readers kita untuk memberi refleksi kepada program kita pada malam ini dan juga komen-komen yang telah dibacakan. So saya mulakan dengan Nur Farah Diana. Boleh Farah?
Boleh.
Okay, sila Farah.
Okay, the adult in school should help and make sure that they believe and support the student who face sexual harassment. The government must take action and make sure teachers or students that make rape jokes or sexually harass students must be punished. The government should also have more strict rules on how a teacher should act around students. My wish to all the students that face sexual harassment are your trauma is valid even if other people has experienced worse. Even if it happened a long time ago, even if no one knows, your trauma is real and you deserve a space to talk about it. It isn't desperate or attention seeking. It is self-care. It is conceivably brave and regardless of the magnitude of your struggle. You're allowed to take care of yourself by processing and unloading some of the pain you carry. Your pain matters, your experience matters, and your healing matters. Nothing and no one can take that away. Know that you are not alone, dear survivor.
Terima kasih Farah, dan saya rasa selain daripada tadi saya ucapkan syabas kepada mereka yang sudi dan berani untuk berkongsi komen-komen dan apa yang telah berlaku pada mereka bersama-sama dengan kita hari inilah, dan terima kasih pada readers yang menyuarakan komen-komen ini. Seterusnya seterusnya yang akan komen bersama kita Nurdini. Silakan Dini.
Thank you so much. Sedih untuk membaca, even more sad and clueless if I was one of the victim. Thus, by reading all the stories, by hearing all the stories from the readers, just now I urge the government to do something. There is no excuse for the government to say there is no data reported, and maybe you can, connect with Save the School.My team to get all the data. Maybe the victim are just feeling uncomfortable. That's why the data in school, they don't have data in school. So the reflection from all the things that we read just now, all these things is beyond age, gender, is beyond race, is beyond religious, even is beyond the things I wear. All this sexual harassment happen is not the victim fault. It must end now and make our school a safer place again.
Terima kasih Dini. Seterusnya akan berkongsi dengan kita Nelisa. Silakan Nelisa.
It's very sad to read all this and to hear all these stories. Like what the previous readers have described, that I wish that the government have the time to investigate on this matter, and also to look back on the guidelines on teachers about sexual harassment, about sexual abuse and all that, because everything right now, especially teachers and principals, are having a very big power trip against students. And also that I wish that the Ministry of Education take this seriously, even though it happened 20 years ago, 10 years ago, or recently. I just wish that, I think just Ain's story alone should take the investigation seriously. And now we have around 800 stories, according to Putri. Yeah, and that's it.
Ya, thank you Nelisa. 800 cerita, ada satu cerita yang banyak. Maksudnya dia memang valid, menunjukkan this is real dan action should be taken. Seterusnya saya jemput Samantha.
Sexual harassment in school is rampant due to the system whereby the perpetrators are not held responsible for their actions. This behavior has been going around for as long as we know and have been allowed to exist through our ignorance and tolerance towards it. These situations are always excused by the teachers and sometimes even parents under excuse of boys would be boys. I would like to see the general behavior and opinion towards this situation change. Most people don't find a problem with it, and that is actually a problem by itself. Respect towards women and men should be taught and instilled at a young age, otherwise sexual harassment or rape culture will continue to exist. In my opinion, this all happened in a cycle due to the lack of respect towards one another just because of the difference in gender. In schools, teachers should be more understanding without having other intentions and abide a code of professional conduct. Forcing students to indulge in activities against their will or without the permission is the definition of sexual harassment. Teachers should also discipline and explain to students about boundaries. And if a student reports about sexual harassment, it should be taken seriously and not swept aside. Instead of teaching young girls to defend themselves, it's time to teach young boys and girls to respect their peers. I wish for all survivors who have faced sexual harassment to stay strong and to never give up. Your voice, loud or soft, will be heard by many. You did not deserve what happened to you, and I salute you for being brave to fight for your rights and speak up for what's right. Thank you.
Thank you Samantha. So Samantha dan juga Farah adalah daripada youngsters kita yang menyuarakan pendapat dan komen mereka terhadap isu sexual harassment ini. Seterusnya saya jemput Muhammad Faisal. Silakan Presiden.
Terima kasih. Amat menyedihkan hari ini kita sebut tentang tahun 2021. Kita cakap tentang peradaban, tentang tamadun, membina sebuah negara yang maju. Tapi isu ini masih lagi berlarutan dan belum selesai. Dan bila sebut tentang 800 komen tu adalah satu yang real, yang memang kita belum lagi, kalau dibuka mungkin lama mungkin kalau kita buka lagi mungkin akan ada lagi banyak suara-suara yang dizahirkan. Dan yang menyedihkan seolah-olah kita melihat seolah-olah ia satu yang untuk dinormalisasikan, normalize joke ni. Satu benda yang biasa, ialah macam istilah orang kata dia memang macam tu, ataupun lelaki memang macam tu, ataupun siapa-siapalah memang macam tu. Zaman budak-budak sekolah memang macam tu. Jadi dia seolah-olah ada usaha untuk normalisasikan joke ini, sedangkan dia memberi impak yang besar. Kalau kita tengok yang tadi disebut ada yang akhirnya terlibat dengan gejala-gejala yang tidak sihat sampai ke tua lah. Maksudnya kesannya ialah daripada joke yang kecil, yang dianggap kecil ataupun yang dianggap normal oleh masyarakat. Dan sebab itu bagi kita perlu, mau tidak mau, perlu diteruskan usaha untuk kita pastikan contohnya macam rang undang-undang gangguan seksual tu perlu disegerakan. Kenapa perlu ada rang undang-undang gangguan seksual? Bukan hanya preventif bukan hanya kita nak prevent perkara ini berlaku, tapi kita nak juga memberi protection kepada orang yang mengadu. Hari ini tak ada seorang pun yang berani mengadu. Mungkin saya tak pasti, tapi rata-ratanya yang menulis dia tak akan tulis nama sebenar. Sebab kita tidak ada undang-undang yang memberi protection kepada pengadu. Yang kedua, privacy pengadu. Sejauh mana hak mereka tidak diapa-apakan dari segi privacy. Kemudian isu keselamatan dan juga mungkin isu kos-kos yang lain. Jadi ini antara contoh kenapa perlu ada undang-undang yang menegakkan hak mereka yang mengadu dalam sesama pendidikan kepada para pelajar sekolah, bagaimana kita harus mendidik juga dengan pemahaman undang-undang, contohnya macam gangguan seksual sebegini, supaya ia tidak berulang. Dan yang terakhir, ini adalah soal maruah. Kita harus mendidik anak-anak kita. Malah sesiapa yang ada anak yang sudah berhantar anak, yang bakal menghantar anak, kita pun rasa mungkin takut ataupun gusar untuk menghantar anak ke sekolah. Kerana apa? Kerana maruah, ini soal maruah, dignity, human dignity ni tidak lagi dianggap sebagai sesuatu yang tinggi nilainya. Sebab dalam Islam, maruah itu adalah anugerah Tuhan. Allah yang beri maruah itu. Tidak ada orang pun yang boleh mencabut maruah ataupun take away dignity from a human being. So, kita harus mendidik anak-anak kita, mendidik masyarakat kita. Ini bukan soal kecil, tapi soal maruah yang Tuhan berikan kepada manusia yang harus dijaga. Terima kasih.
Okay, terima kasih Faisal. Kita harus saling belajar untuk hormat, saling menghormati. Dan saya ingat kita akan terus menggesa dan menyokong untuk RUU gangguan seksual diangkat dan dibentangkan. Okey, seterusnya saya jemput Ivy.
Thank you. I want to first of all thank the survivors, all these men and women who shared their stories. Thank you very much. You had the courage to share the stories, and I thank the survivors. And I agree with Farah. Where are the adults? Because I think the adults have let us down and letting down the children. When I say adults, I don't mean government as a whole, but the Minister of Education, the principals, both headmasters and headmistresses, the teachers, and even the parents. The parents also must get involved in this fight to demand that schools must be a safe place, that they should really look at the school environment to make sure they create a culture where students can come forward to make complaints and they will not face any repercussions. They should be given counseling and support. And more than anything else, there must be a strong policy, a policy that is not just words, but they must take action to say there's zero tolerance when it comes to sexism, sexual harassment, or any kind of bullying. And finally, I want to just say thank you, Putri, for doing this, for making sure that your Instagram platform has become so amazing, and please keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Seterusnya saya ingat terus kepada Marina. Please unmute.
Terima kasih. Sebagai seorang ibu kepada 2 orang anak perempuan, saya rasa amat sedih membaca cerita-cerita ini. Dan cerita-cerita ini amat tidak menyenangkan, dan saya tertanya pula sama ada anak-anak saya pun dulu semasa di sekolah menghadapi masalah-masalah seperti ini. Kerana saya tahu ini adalah masalah yang dah lama berlaku di sekolah. Tapi saya rasa yang pentingnya ialah bila kita dengar cerita-cerita ini, membaca cerita-cerita ini, yang pertama ialah kita mesti percaya kepada pengadu. Sama ada perempuan atau lelaki, kita mesti percaya. Jangan kita dengan cepat mengatakan mereka membohong atau saja nak buat cerita dan sebagainya, kerana memang susah bagi sesiapa nak membuat aduan mengenai harassment dan bullying seperti ini. Jadi kalau dia memberanikan diri, mestilah benar. Dan saya rasa kalau kita tidak membenteras sexual harassment di sekolah, maka ia akan melarat sampai di luar sekolah ke tempat kerja. if we have sexual harassment in schools and it goes unresolved, this is why we also have sexual harassment in the workplace. Because what kids learn to do in school, they think will be okay. If they go unpunished, kalau ada impunity, dia boleh sambung di tempat kerja. Then it also points to me about inequality between the sexes, between young people and older people, between people who have power and people who don't have power. We learn everything in school. And what we learn in school, we will continue later on. Jadi kalau kita belajar bahawa perempuan dan lelaki tu tak saksama, di antara orang yang muda dan lebih tua tu pun tak sama, tak equal. Yang mereka yang ada power dan mereka yang tak ada power tu, they are not equal in standing, not equal human beings. Ini akan disambung di luar nanti semasa mereka menjadi dewasa. So we have to tackle this in schools. We really have to tackle this at the very, very start, which is in school and of course in the family. If you in the family you are not seen as equal, and then in school this is reinforced, you bring it to school, then of course this is just going to continue. Jadi saya harap pihak kerajaan dan masyarakat pada umumnya akan mengambil berat kepada masalah ini, to take it seriously, because we are failing our children as parents, as adults, as policy makers, as activists, as everything, as human beings. We are failing our children if we don't do anything about it. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. So anak-anak kita dalam masa depan, dan saya ingat ada institusi pendidikan, keluarga ada institusi yang penting, tapi saya rasa komuniti juga main peranan yang penting dalam membentuk suasana yang lebih selamat dan baik. So seterusnya saya jemput Christine untuk komen. Is Christine here?
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. Kisah survivor sexual harassment yang saya baca tadi memang sangat sedih dan saya berasa sangat marah. Saya fikir tentang kanak-kanak di negeri Sabah ni sendiri, terutamanya di kawasan pedalaman. Kanak-kanak di kawasan pedalaman di Sabah kurang mendapat pendidikan tentang gangguan seksual, apalagi perlindungan daripada gangguan seksual. Contohnya, saya ada dengar satu kes yang berlaku di kawasan pedalaman di Sabah. Ada satu perkampungan di kawasan pedalaman Sabah yang mana kanak-kanak di kampung itu dirogol oleh ahli keluarga sendiri. Dan komuniti di kampung ini berasa itu ialah tidak salah dan adalah perkara biasa. Jadi kes rogol ini berlaku antara ahli keluarga, bergilir-gilir dan bergenerasi. So pada malam ni kita dapat dengar kisah-kisah gangguan seksual yang kena hantar pergi Google Form, dan untuk membuat ni mesti ada kemudahan akses kepada internet. Kalau di Sabah kemudahan akses internet sangatlah lemah, apalagi kalau yang di pedalaman. Kadang-kadang ada kawasan yang perlu pergi sungai, perlu naik bot baru boleh dapat internet. So untuk kanak-kanak di negeri Sabah ini pula sudahlah tidak ada kemudahan akses internet, dan macam mana kisah diorang tu mau didengari oleh pihak-pihak yang patut, the stakeholders. So negeri Sabah sudah lama merdeka, sudah bertahun-tahun. Tapi sampai sekarang kanak-kanak dan remaja di negeri Sabah ni macam tiada perubahan, setiap tahun sama saja. That's all my
Thank you,
reflection
Christine.
sharing for tonight.
Thank you Christine, jauh dari Sabah so maksudnya isu ini meliputi seluruh geografi kita berbeza juga mempengaruhi dan saya ingat kita masih perlu untuk teruskan advokasi dan sebarluaskan lagi tentang kesedaran gangguan seksual dan sebagainya. Saya fikir saya teruskan dengan Kak Fad, Bang Fadlina.
Terima kasih Fatin. 800 kisah yang dikongsikan pada hari ini menunjukkan kegagalan kita sebagai untuk menilai dan juga menerima suara kanak-kanak ini sebagai suara yang penting. Dan again, we have failed children again and again. Jadi saya nak sebut beberapa perkara, antara yang paling utama adalah sebagaimana yang rakan-rakan telah tegaskan daripada awal tentang child protection policy. Ini bukan bermakna kita memerlukan satu polisi yang tegas, tetapi juga polisi yang cukup rumit kerana ia melibatkan banyak agensi yang seperti kita tahu, agensi yang melibatkan kanak-kanak ini bukan satu tapi melibatkan banyak kementerian. Jadi child protection policy ini juga mesti base-nya adalah ekosistem yang selamat, yang terkait rapat dengan keselamatan kanak-kanak di mana saja mereka berada. Yang kedua adalah suara kanak-kanak mesti percaya. Kita mesti percaya dalam polisi dan juga dalam mengambil kira kes-kes undang-undang yang melibatkan kanak-kanak, keselamatan kanak-kanak, mesti percaya. Dan orang dewasa mesti diajar untuk percaya cerita kanak-kanak terlebih dahulu dan sebelum bertindak. Yang ketiga, saya ingat perkara yang penting juga mesti disebut adalah cabaran apabila kita mengendalikan kes kanak-kanak. Ini adalah cabaran kami aktivis yang mesti saya kongsikan bersama. Pertama adalah cabaran berdepan dengan ibu bapa yang saya percaya sangat sukar sebenarnya. Kita ada kes yang sudah pun kita bawa sampai ke balai polis tetapi mereka boleh patah balik macam tu saja. Tarik balik report, ini biasa. Kemudian NFA, no further action, no further, maknanya kes tidak dapat diteruskan kerana alasan-alasan sama ada campur tangan dan sebagainya. Dan juga counselling trauma yang sebenarnya sangat kritikal. Kita memang nak empower lebih ramai kaunselor-kaunselor yang boleh deal dengan kes kanak-kanak dengan lebih spesifik. Khususnya dalam tempoh PKP yang memang kes kanak-kanak meningkat sebenarnya dari segi seksual, keganasan seksual dan juga mental. Yang terakhir saya nak juga sebut, walau dalam semangat dan juga kita bersungguh-sungguh untuk memastikan rang undang-undang gangguan seksual ini menjadi kenyataan, tapi kita kena ingat bahawa ia hanya bukan satu-satunya mekanisme yang sedang kita perlu usahakan. Tetapi yang lebih besar dan bahaya adalah rape culture yang deep rooted dalam masyarakat ini yang memerlukan advokasi yang lebih berterusan. Kita berhadapan dengan permissive society. Deep rooted culture ni adalah termasuk juga permissive society yang membenarkan semua perilaku-perilaku ini berlaku dalam masyarakat. Jadi kita mohon untuk semua untuk mengambil tindakan yang serius. Sesungguhnya kes ataupun suara kanak-kanak dan isu kanak-kanak tidak pernah sebegini hangat dibincangkan dalam tempoh 10 tahun kebelakangan ini, tapi 5 tahun kebelakangan ini adalah tahun yang terbaik untuk kanak-kanak dan kita mesti terus angkat isu dan suara kanak-kanak ini dengan lebih baik. Assalamualaikum dan selamat malam.
Salam, terima kasih Kak Fad. Kita harus percaya kepada kanak-kanak, suara kanak-kanak. Seterusnya saya jemput Dr. Munira.
Thank you, Fatin. As we have heard tonight, the horrifying stories that we have read here, and those are only 25 stories. This is only the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that we haven't seen and we haven't read. Now, as a doctor, I'm very worried not only about the emotional effect to the victims of these harassments, but also equally or even more worrying effect of the perpetrators. It starts off with jokes, but it becomes harassment, it leads to pornography, rape, and domestic violence. It all starts with a simple joke. So we need to create the change. This is at least a start. Let's create the awareness. Let's empower our girls and boys to speak up so that everyone listens and protects them. Let's stop the perpetrators until they are afraid to do so with severe penalties. This is a national issue regardless of religion, race or social status. Let's start with our schools. Let's make them safe. Let's start with our children, our parents, our community, our religious leaders, our police, politicians and the government. This needs to be a national movement. We must do this together. You and I, every one of us, top down and bottom up. Let's be the change we want to see. Let's treat this with absolutely zero tolerance.
Terima kasih Dr. Munira. Kita harus mulakannya sekarang. Okey, seterusnya Nusra.
Right. All the points being addressed, I think with the many stories being shared, sadly, and with the many cases that only showing how prevalent this rape culture is normalized in our society, I think us as the generation where we have this awareness, we have this knowledge, we have this information, we have this access, we should slowly and try to make a change. There is no point for us to point fingers and blame the older generations or the adults because they are not doing a good job. They are not protecting our children per se. So we as the change agents, we should step forward, take charge, and make changes. It can go as simple as you educating, you telling that, oh, this is not right. You call out whenever you witness any, sexual threats being imposed on someone, or maybe to yourself, in fact, because this needs to be addressed out. This needs to be voiced out. So that it would not give domino effects from school to workplace to everywhere, for us to create a safe place for everyone eventually. So I think it is high time for us to, step it up and tell it to people, spread awareness. If they do not know, we let them know. We play our part in making a better society, insyaAllah.
Okay, Nusrah. Terima kasih, Nusrah. Seterusnya, Encik Nizam.
Okay, banyak yang dikongsikan malam ni. Even masa saya buat Twitter space dengan Ain and few other people dekat Twitter pun, dekat DM memang dapat banyak sangat kisah yang horrifying dan I absolutely believe that it is never easy for the survivors to share this kind of stories. Mungkin saya boleh bagi tahu kepada lelaki lah kot yang dengar ataupun yang sedang menonton kita punya Facebook live ni, macam yang Dr. Munirah cakap tadi tentang rape culture ni, kita kena bertindak lah, kita kena jangan jadikan benda tu sebagai kebiasaan. Sebab kadang-kadang saya tengok dekat Twitter ataupun dekat Facebook ni, ialah berdegar-degar lah, kita boleh komen kan, cakap make school a safer place, tapi bila kita bersama-sama dengan kawan-kawan kita, terutamanya lelaki kan, atau kita akan kadang-kadang tergelincir ketawa bersama-sama, kadang-kadang kita rasakan benda tu sebagai kelakar, kadang-kadang kita rasa bimbang untuk tidak menegur kawan kita, takut kita rasa tak belong dalam circle tu, sedangkan benda tu memang it is memang outright salah lah. Tak kisahlah sama ada kepada budak sekolah ke ataupun sesama kita ke, sebab benda yang berakar umbi dan terbiasa dalam kalangan rakan-rakan ni lah yang akan tergelincir dan terkeluar, yang akan kita buat juga dengan orang lain. Kanak-kanak yang observe kita pun akan tiru benda tu. So kita kena be a better person dalam circle kita juga untuk menghentikan rape culture tu, dan supaya benda tu tak merebak lah di tempat lain. Thank you again survivor yang share cerita dan Putri atas inisiatif ni. Thank you.
Terima kasih Cik Nizam. Saya ingat kita memang kena mulakan lah sekarang dan seterusnya saya ingat Nat.
Terima kasih. Thank you very much. Listening to the stories, obviously it's really infuriating. It's really emotional response. One of the patterns that you can see is that there are a lot of people here that are acting with impunity, talking about teachers or male students. They do things and they feel that in broad daylight they can just do this, do that kind of thing, and they think like it's really nothing. It's not a problem. It's Saudara Faizal kata ini bakal normalized, right? I mean, I look back at my own kid days and I realize I probably also made don't know how many comments that made people uncomfortable, and it's just things in bad taste, jokes that are not okay, that are not jokes. And I think this, if you look at it sort of like strategically or whatever, I think this means that there are more people that think it's okay than there are people who think it's not okay. I think that's the only way that these things can happen, again, in broad daylight, right in front of people's faces in school. It's just like it's a majority of people yang bersongkol in a way. And and then you see the reports of people making reports about what's happened to them, and then the adults don't believe, or they just it's like this inconvenient truth that we want to sweep under the carpet. In Malaysia, we do a lot of that, right? We don't want to leceh lah, kita kena buat report, kita kena follow up, we just never mind, it's not a big deal, that kind of thing. And it's really terrible, So I think the only way we can change that, the only way, it's only by speaking up. Then you can only change the majority from people who think it's not okay versus people who think it's okay. So you got to go up to the school, you got to make noise, and if they don't listen, you bang the table and say, no, this is not okay. Yeah. I think that's all for me. Thanks very much, guys, and thanks for the great work that you've done.
Thank you, Nat. Thank you for the initiative as well. Seterusnya, Maina?
Yes, terima kasih semua. So yes, we've heard a lot of very depressing stories today. Thank you to Putri for all the stories that she has collected. Nalisa also has collected so many stories, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. There's so many more stories out there. I believe a lot of students actually go through sexual harassment in school, and this is not just issues that's happening today, right now, that students are more aware and therefore the stories are coming out now. No, these cases have been happening for years. Some of the stories I've read actually were stories that happened 10 years ago, 15 years ago. This is not a new matter that's just happening today. So dear survivors, you all are survivors. You're not victims. You survived it. Now, let's work together in stopping it from further happening. So no matter when such incidents happen to you, do reach out, do speak to someone about the abuse that you went through. If you don't think your family members will listen to you, call up an NGO, call up a friend, but speak to someone. Do not bottle up, do not let this affect you further. Let's put a stop to it. That's all, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mina. Can you have Abang Radin dulu? Okay, Abang Radin dulu.
Terima kasih Fatin. Ya. Saya nak melihat daripada satu aspek lah, sebab kes yang kita dengar tadi ni dia datang daripada pelbagai, daripada sekolah kebangsaan ada, daripada sekolah swasta ada, daripada pusat tuition pun ada, datang daripada cikgu pun ada, daripada kawan-kawan boyfriend pun ada. Jadi dia pelbagai. Tapi dalam konteks yang kita nak tengok sini adalah apabila apa yang sekolah yang paling besar, sekolah kerajaan, sekolah awam tu boleh buat sendirilah. Yang mana kalau kita tahu, kita pun baru je sambut hari guru baru-baru ni, baru 2 hari. Dan kita tengok kalau penjawat awam ni apa dia punya rule atau regulation, panduan dia. Kita pegang kepada apa dia sebut sebagai surat perklinik ikhtisas, SPI. Bila saya buat rujukan sikit, saya nampak bahawa surat SPI yang terakhir tentang program sekolah selamat ini adalah pada tahun 2002. Dan bila saya baca, dia banyak kepada yang bersifat fizikal, keselamatan tentang dalam PDP. Tapi adalah, gist tu ada. Cuma mungkin tidak dijelmakan tentang cyberbully, emotional harassment, sexual harassment. Dan ini adalah kes yang baru yang tidak lagi ada dalam peraturan perkhidmatan. Yang saya rasa ini perlu dibuat. Maknanya dalam undang-undang itu kita fight juga sebagai satu payung besar perundangan negara, tapi dalam konteks polisi dalam sekolah itu sendiri perlu ada, yang mana benda ni perlu advokasikan secara terus. Sebabnya ini bukan perkara main-main, bukan perkara main-main. Dan sebab apa? Sebab kita sayang cikgu kita. Kita sayang career cikgu ni, mulia cikgu ini untuk membina generasi baru. Kita tak mau kerana nilai setitik rosak susu sebelanga. Sebab bila ke peristiwa ini, betul ramai cikgu marah sebenarnya. Sebabnya yang pertama, cikgu terpalit. Dan dilihat seolah semua cikgu tu terpalit. Jadi kita kena pastikan bahawa yang kita attack ini, yang kita serang ini sebenarnya adalah sikap yang segelintir itu dan telah dinormalisasikan sebegitu lama, yang akhirnya apabila kes ini berlaku, dia telah jadi pertembungan yang saya rasa perlu kita hati-hati dan kita kena tegaskan bahawa ini adalah kes yang perlu kita ambil peduli. Terima kasih.
Okey, terima kasih Saudara Radin. Seterusnya saya jemput Dayan. Dayan Trisha, are you there? Okay.
Hi everybody. I just want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream. The fact that you guys are here joining us, talking about this topic means that we are all aware and want to be enlightened about this issue. Nothing that I want to say hasn't been said by a lot of people around here. But maybe I wanted to share that hearing and reading through all these stories and testimonies kind of brought up a few bad memories that happened to me as well. Because I was reminded that I was once a young teenage girl in school going through these things and didn't know that these are wrong, and that would make me somewhat a sexual assault victim as well. So I feel like a lot of people, a lot of girls, women now grew up and learning that these are not supposed to happen, especially in an environment that we consider safe, which is school. So I'm glad that we are talking about it more, bring more awareness for people. And now we have the hashtag Make School a Safer Place, so that our younger generations, our younger girls understood that this is the things that they would need to know when they grow up, and then they would know which is right and which is wrong, and stand up and speak about this with their friends. And I would also like to thank all the people and the survivors who submit their stories. Submitting and talking to people about it takes a lot of courage and bravery. And if we don't have all these stories, then we don't have stories to tell. So thank you for your courage. And also, thank you so much to Putri for having me today, and everyone for being here to help spread more awareness about these things. That's all.
Thank you, Dayan.
Okay, terima kasih Dayan bersama dengan kita untuk sesi kali ini. Dan saya ingat kita juga secara live di FB, dan ada beberapa komen di FB juga. Mungkin Afika boleh tolong bacakan?
Baik, terima kasih Kak Fatin. So overall respon yang kita dapat di FB ialah mereka semua ni rasakan how disturbing and how betapa menyayat hatinya kisah-kisah mereka ni. Tapi saya nak ingatkan, kalau kita rasa macam itu, kita just imagine how these survivors are feeling. That's why we have to come in and be the support system that they need. Apart from that, Anita Marianne juga, dia ada stress yang the predators should be held accountable, not the victim or the survivors. And then Izian Hanani also stressed that the main reason that she's fighting for this move is for our future children. They are the next generation of this country. I do not want any of them to encounter this. No one should have experienced this hurtful experience. And then Nur Hazlin Salam also stressed that every school should provide a safer place, not not limited only to the counselling room, by the teacher has to be a good support system to them lah. And yeah, wait, suddenly it's my FB is dibuat hal pula. Okay. And mengharapkan kanak-kanak yang berani bersuara ini selamat keadaannya daripada Faiz Syazwan, kawan-kawan sepatutnya support, jangan pulaukan mereka. So mostly the comments are talking about what we should do next, especially the support system that needed. Apart from praising and kudos to all the survivors for speaking up. Thank you Kak Fatin.
Okey, terima kasih Afika. Itulah komen-komen daripada yang bersama dengan kita pada malam ini di FB Live. Dan saya ingat semua orang terganggu malam ini dengan kisah-kisah yang telah dikongsikan bersama. So seterusnya saya jemput Gayatri untuk bersama dengan kita.
Hi. Thank you so much, Fatin. Thank you, Putri and the team for organizing this. Firstly, I'd like to thank all the survivors for sharing your stories, and it really does break my heart to think that all the survivors experienced this as a child when they were in school. And, you know, it's amazing that school children are coming out and advocating for their rights. They're speaking out really loudly for their rights, and they're shining so much awareness. You know, just like Ain, who started this movement. But of course, it has been happening way before Ain has been talking about. But, you know, there is a part of me that does think that the fact that at times like this, a lot of children have to step up and take over this issue as adults, because a lot of adults around them are not believing them. And, you know, it's really painful because children too have a right to play, right? The fact that children have to act as an adult instead of being children, instead of enjoying their childhood, it's really painful because it shows that we as adults, we are not supporting them enough to the point where they have to step in. And also, I would like to shine a bit of light in why this whole thing is happening, is because a lot of the root stems from rape culture, right? So rape culture perpetuates violence. It normalizes violence around us. And the students who did share this also stated that a lot of the adults in their environment stated that, "Alah, ni biasa je, this is normal." So I think one of the few things that we can do is, whenever we're in this kind of situations where rape jokes are being said or sexual harassment is being perpetrated, one small thing that we can do is to say, no, this is not normal. You shouldn't say things like this, you know? So this is a small step, but obviously it leads to a bigger chain of events where this will be stopped. And I would also, again, I would like to thank all the survivors tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your stories. And I'd also like to mention that we from Women's Aid Organization have our hotline open 24 hours for anyone to call us. You can visit our website, or the hotline is 03 03-3000-8858. Again, 03-3000-8858. We are always here to support all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, terima kasih Gayatri. So saya ingat setiap daripada kita mengatakan tentang kita perlu buang tradisi ataupun perkara-perkara yang memudaratkan budaya-budaya yang tidak patut ada dan kita mulakan dengan budaya yang baru dan kita perlu mulakannya dengan generasi kita dan pada masa sekarang lah. Dan saya ingat last but not least adalah our owner, our pendiri, our founder yang telah mengumpulkan all the comments yang kita bacakan pada malam ini. Saya persilakan Putri.
Hai semua. Honestly, saya hari-hari baca cerita macam ni. Tapi bila cerita ni diperdengarkan di telinga, dia jadi I am at the verge of breaking down. Padahal saya yang collect cerita-cerita ni. Saya berterima kasih dekat Ain for speaking up. Saya berterima kasih dekat survivors yang actually berkongsi cerita-cerita tu dekat platform saya sebab it's just platform tu dimulakan dengan rasa marah. Rasa marah bila tengok orang invalidate cerita-cerita ni di social media apa semua. Orang cakap kita mangsa-mangsa tu cuba tarik perhatian. Jadi saya marah gila pagi tu. Pagi 27 April tu saya jadi macam benda ni tak boleh jadi. Mungkin kita kena platform lagi banyak cerita dan mungkin kita kena bagi ruang untuk orang tengok dan dengar yang betapa benda-benda macam ni berakar dalam masyarakat kita. Saya nangis lah. Saya tak tahu kenapa, I'm so sorry. Tapi saya sangat terharu dengan sokongan yang orang dah bagi dekat platform tu. Dan kita still ada harapan dengan kita punya masyarakat. Sebab bila ada orang yang bersuara, maknanya kita masih ada sinar harapan untuk menjadikan masyarakat kita, sekolah kita lebih baik. Sorry. Saya sangat terharu bila Nat approach dan nak buat projek ni. Terima kasih banyak-banyak Projek Wawasan Rakyat. Terima kasih Dini, GAP.My, sebab sudi partner up. WAO, BIM, siapa lagi did I miss out? All these organizations yang partner up untuk amplify the platform. Terima kasih to media friends yang actually cover platform ni. I'm not doing this for myself. In fact, saya offended sikit bila orang panggil saya aktivis sebab saya rasa title tu terlalu besar dan berat untuk saya bawa. Tapi kalau kerja-kerja ni, kalau kerja-kerja yang saya buat ni boleh amplify the cause, boleh menjadikan generasi masa depan lebih baik. Saya tak kisah kalau we're in a long game, you know. Kalau game ni untuk 100 tahun it is. If it's not for my kids untuk merasa effort ni, then so be it. Tapi kita sedang berhutang dengan generasi yang akan datang untuk kita jadikan the world a better place. Jadi saya harap make school a safer place, dia takkan die down cepat. Saya harap if anything benda ni akan amplify lebih dan lebih, dan saya harap people, the authority of power, tolonglah take some action for this campaign, because behind the stories tu saya tak nak cerita-cerita tu jadi just a story, you know, just story nombor 240, story nombor 169. Tak nak. Belakang di balik cerita-cerita yang orang kongsikan ni ada mangsa yang terkesan, dan berapa banyak lagi orang yang terkesan di luar sana kita tak tahu. So kita anggota masyarakat, we owe each other to play our part in this. Dan saya harap kalau ada mangsa nak berkongsi kisah, tolong bagi tahu dekat tolong datang dekat platform tu, ada Google Form, tolong share. Dan kita jangan berhenti bercakap tentang isu ni. Memang ada isu banyak, Free Palestine, Justice for Ghana Party, whatnot. Semua isu ni penting. But saya harap isu ni kita akan terus perkatakan dan kita akan terus share. Dan tolong doakan saya kuat semangat untuk keep on the initiative, sebab at this point saya seorang yang buat. Ya Allah, pathetic. But yeah, the show must goes on, guys. Macam mana pun kita kena terus speak up about this. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you for the platform. God bless. Have a good day ahead, everyone. Thank you.
Terima kasih Putri. Saya rasa kita perlu beri tepukan yang penuh kepada Putri dan usaha-usaha Putri and the gang dan juga semua yang bersama-sama kita pada malam ini. Saya ingat kita memang yakin guru itu penting, tapi apa yang kita lakukan sekarang ni adalah isu-isu yang tidak sepatutnya berlaku yang kita perlu bantras. Dan saya ingat Putri telah memulakannya dan kita semua berada bersama dengan Putri, di belakang Putri untuk terus bersama-sama dan anything kita akan cuba untuk bantu dan terus sokong dan pergi sejauh yang boleh dan sebaiknya lah. Dan saya ingat kita dah hampir 2 jam, supposedly 1 jam setengah, tapi saya rasa walaupun kita hanya membacakan tapi ini satu program yang sangat meaningful. Terima kasih kepada Nat dan semua collaborators dan juga readers pada malam ini. Thank you so much. Dan saya ingat kita boleh tutup dengan selamat malam. Jumpa lagi. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.